Hi, Sarah Rodewald. I'm a realtor in the Boston area. So today we're talking about closing your loan if you're a buyer, and this is part 4 of how to buy. Previously, I talked about having your offer accepted, what you do, and the search, and then the pre-approval. So I try to break it up into 4 easy little modules, or whatever you want to call it, videos. So you've had your mortgage contingency. Essentially, the bank has said they're going to give you, the mortgage. They're going to give you the commitment to fund the loan. So then what after that, about a week after that, is typically when you would have the closing. If for whatever reason, it's longer, that happens. Usually 30 to 45 days is typical for buying a house. Sometimes longer, sometimes shorter. It just depends. But before the closing, you want to make sure that you have home insurance. You also want to make sure that, if you need home insurance, some condo insurance, you don't need additional insurance because it's called walls in insurance. But, you just always want to double check that. You've already had your movers in place if you're moving right away. And you would essentially schedule the closing with your buyer's attorney, and I would just say, on the day of the closing, you want to essentially be able to be flexible, because a lot of times stuff has to get moved around because the attorneys are still waiting for the documents, or maybe they're waiting for the final numbers from the seller's attorney. Different things like that. So whatever you can do to keep yourself flexible on that day, I think is the best way to go. So within 24 hours before the closing, you're going to schedule a final walkthrough. So what that means is you're going through the property and double checking that they didn't take, stuff that they're not supposed to take. I mean, most of the time that's not the case, but you just want to make sure that everything that is there that you offered to buy is there when you're buying it. If it's a new construction, a lot of times, you're doing your final walkthrough for punch list. So that's just essentially items that need to be completed before you close. When I bought my place, there was, like electrical things and stuff like that. And they ended up doing that later, but, stuff that we looked at during the final walkthrough. Also, you're making sure that just anything that, people didn't leave anything behind. So you want to check things like garages in the basement, maybe like crawl space or attic. So because, say they leave a bunch of stuff that they're like, oh, they'll probably want that paint, and you don't want that paint, and then you have to figure out how to get rid of it. So it's just good to double check that and make sure that everything is as it's supposed to be. I had one client who, like at the closing date, they hadn't completely finished moving out, and the movers were moving things as we were supposed to be doing the walkthrough, and they left piles of trash in front of the house. It was not very nice. I was like, we're not going to close until you move the trash. Thank you very much. So it was not great. Apparently the sellers were not very nice people to the seller's agent too, so it wasn't just us. Anyway, so those are the kinds of things that you just want to make sure are in place, and that you're buying what you said you were buying. The final numbers for what you need to bring to the table in terms of the money. A lot of times you don't know until that morning, so usually you're going to end up wiring the funds to the buyer's attorney, and you always want to double check that. Make sure that you're not, if you're sending a wire, that you call wherever the wire is supposed to go and you confirm that this is where the wire goes, and that'll protect you against any complications and wire fraud. And let's see what else. So the closing, a lot of times it takes an hour, just depending. I mean, most of the documents you've already seen and signed, but you have to do it again. So a lot of it, you can ask to see ahead of time, so that way it's just quick and easy. It's kind of fun. You get to hang out and kind of talk about the different things that need to happen, switching your utilities over, mail, stuff like that. And then, you sign about an hour, sometimes a little longer, answer questions, all that stuff, and then you're done. And then what they do is they take the paperwork and they send it to the registry. Sometimes they have to physically take it to the registry of deeds in the county that you're doing the closing, or they can electronically send it, and there's a cutoff for when they can accept that stuff, so you have to be available during the day. And once that is on record with the registry of deeds, then you officially own the home. There is typically like a gap insurance between the time that you sign the documents and when you're on record. So typically you're covered, but you can double check. I don't know why it keeps doing that. Anyway, when you're done with that, then you're gonna make sure that you have your estate plan. So I know this is adulting 101, so if you haven't done this, you need to make sure that you do this one, especially after you buy a property. You want to make sure you have your estate plan, you have your will, all that stuff. It's not super pleasant, but it's cheaper when you do it younger. And once you own property, why wouldn't you? Make sure that you have your financial advising and financial advisor in place, because a lot of times they're going to be able to help you with life insurance, which typically you want to have like once you have a property, because you don't want someone stuck paying for, not able to pay for the property. Ideally, you want to think about those things ahead of time, God forbid anything were to happen. So all of that stuff you want to take care of after you've moved in and you've done all that on the closing day. And I always send people right away, like people to talk to, because you have to take care of that stuff, and it's cheaper the younger you do it. So anyway, I think that's it for today. If you have any questions, just send me a message, and make sure to like and subscribe.